today we're going to be covering how to make Excel files accessible um, in your classroom. Why make Excel files accessible? Basically, an inaccessible spreadsheet is pretty much invisible to a screen reader. So anyone using a screen reader is basically not going to see or hear anything. And screen readers and assistive technologies help users with disabilities navigate spreadsheets like Excel. But they must be built correctly and put some forethought into putting them together. And the key areas that we're going to cover in the session is the worksheet setup, adding tab names, help text descriptions, adding structure headers, naming and alt text to tables for charts and images, adding descriptions and alt text, and adding descriptive text and screen tips for hyperlinks, and then finally using accessibility checker, spell check, etc. So step one when you're creating a worksheet is that you want to name the worksheet at the bottom. It should not be sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. You want to make these pretty obvious what they are called. And in so doing, it's best to avoid backlashes and brackets. Just be very straightforward. Spaces are okay. And the next thing you want to do is add a helpful for the screen reader user helpful bit of text here in the A1 cell. And basically what we've done here is just added how to navigate this. Press tab to move to input area, press up or down arrow in column A to read through the document. And an experienced screen reader user may already know this, but it's good to have this put in there. And then it's best to match the text color with the background, so it's not a distraction for someone who's not using a screen reader. But for the screen reader user, this will be right for them. So, and then you want to, in cell A2, so you can insert a row there if it doesn't already exist. You want to basically describe the worksheet. And this is a pretty simple worksheet here. It just contains one table, but this worksheet contains one table, and it's a nurse's salary table. So you want to include basically how many, what the worksheet contains and the name of any tables it may contain. And again, match the word color, the text color with the background, so it's not a distraction for any non-reader user. And then you want to add a descriptive row for each table. Similar to the last one, you want to be fairly specific about this. I don't know if I can actually read this with the, but this basically, the first column is male nurse salary. The second column is associated months of experience. The third column is female nurse salary. The fourth column is associated with the months of experience. The range is from A1 to D124, and hopefully I read that correctly. But if we had a screen reader right now, it would have read that for us. So, but again, match the text to the background, so it's not a distraction. Then you want to add row and column headers. Ensure that this first row contains column header. Instead of column 1, column 2, column 3, it should be named so that that the screen reader can read it. An existing table, we want to select here table design, style options, and then head row. Okay, and so if we want to create a formal table out of thin air, basically you want to select the range that you're going to, and then click in the table, insert tab, tables, and it's going to bring up this create a table. And a lot of Excel users, this shouldn't be anything new, but you would want to identify that make sure that the range is correct. And then just say my table has headers, click OK. So now we're going to name the table. And you want to click the design tab, table design up here, and then type in a valid name up here to name the table. Again, keep it simple. Here we just went salary underscore table. Then you want to set a consistent table style. Select any cell in a table, and use table design. And you can create or select the drop-down menu here. And what you want to do is choose a high contrast style so it's easily readable, and apply the same style to all of the tables that are in your worksheet so that they match and they have a similar style. And the high contrast is there for students. You want to add text and borders. So for alternative text here, you want to click on the right-hand side, or click on the table, select table, right-click, select table, alt text, bring up this window here, where you can add the title for an alternative text. It's here for for students not using a reader to view, but this actually gives them a alternative text where it can read the title and then also a description of the table also. And then just click OK. This is really just applying borders. Avoid merge or empty cells in these data areas. The screen reader will have trouble with those. For any empty cells, just type no data. And again, match the background, match the text color with the background. So it's not a distraction. The sighted user will be able to see that this is really empty. And then finally, from my side of things, you want to basically put an end so that they know that the table has come to a conclusion. So every table should have a end of summary output table or end of X table, just to let the user know that they've gone through the table, they've read everything that's in that table, and then then you would ideally, if there's another table, you would see the next title and description of the next table, and then they would move through that table. And I think that's it for my side of it. I'm going to stop sharing so that Cash can take over.
Thank you, Chuck. Step 3 explains how to add accessible hyperlinks. If you need to embed a hyperlink in an Excel sheet, right-click the cell where you would like to add the hyperlink, then select Link or Links depending on the version of your Excel. In the dialog box that opens, paste the URL into the address field, making sure it includes HTTPS at the beginning, and then click OK. Also, please avoid using anchor text such as click here or the link. Instead, use descriptive anchor text that clearly indicates the destination, or include the full URL if appropriate. As an additional step, add a screen tip to your accessible hyperlink. A screen tip provides a brief, meaningful description of where the hyperlink goes, and it can be read by screen readers to provide additional context for users. To add a screen tip, after creating the hyperlink, right-click the cell and select Edit Hyperlink. In the dialog box, click the screen tip button in the upper right corner. Enter a short, meaningful description in the text box provided, then click OK. Once you've added the screen tip, it's always a good idea to test all of your hyperlinks to make sure they work correctly and direct users to the intended destination. Broken or incorrect links can be confusing for users of assistive technologies and create unnecessary accessibility barriers. If you need to add a chart or image to your Excel worksheet, include a description of it in cell A2 immediately after the text that identifies your existing tables. Then add a brief explanation of what the chart or image is showing at the end of the text in cell A2 following the table descriptions. To keep this information available to screen reader users without displaying it to sighted users, change the font color of the added description to match the worksheet background. This allows the text to remain hidden visually while still being accessible to assistive technologies. After generating the chart or adding the image to the worksheet, resize a row in the first column so there is enough space to display it. Then merge the cells across the width of the worksheet in that row to create a larger area for the object. Finally, drag and drop the chart or image into the merged cell and adjust its size as needed so it fits neatly within the designated space. After fitting the chart or image into the merged cell, add alternative text to make it accessible to screen reader users. To do this, right-click the chart or image and select All Text. In the pane or dialog box that opens, enter meaningful title and description. Because some screen readers may not read lengthy alternative text effectively, it's recommended to provide a complete explanation in cell A2 as described earlier, while also including a concise but meaningful title and description in the object's alt text. This ensures that users receive the necessary information regardless of how they access the content. The same process applies to images added to your worksheet. Always provide appropriate alternative text so that the users of assistive technologies can understand the purpose and content of the image. As part of the final steps, review the worksheet of any remaining accessibility issues and run a spell check to ensure there are no spelling errors. Then, in the row immediately following the last table, type End of Worksheet. Change the text color to match the worksheet background so that it remains hidden from sighted users while still being available to screen readers. If your workbook contains extra rows or columns that are not being used, hide them to keep the worksheet clean and easy to navigate. Also, delete any unused worksheets to avoid confusion and ensure users only access to relevant content. Excel has a built-in spell checker that you can access from the Review tab. Click the Spelling and the Statistics drop-down menu and select the spelling. In the pane that opens, Excel will highlight any words that are not in its dictionary. If a highlighted word is correct, such as a proper name or technical term, you can click Ignore. Otherwise, apply the suggested correction. Continue running the spell checker from the same location until you see the checkmark indicating that no spelling errors remain. In addition to all of these steps, Excel has a built-in accessibility checker that helps identify potential accessibility issues in your workbook. It can flag items such as missing alternative text, unclear table structures, hard-to-read content, and other issues that may make the file difficult for users of assistive technologies to navigate. To use it, go to the Review tab and click Accessibility. A pane will open on the right-hand side with warnings, errors, and tips. Review each item carefully and fix any issues as needed. However, you can ignore color contrast warnings related to the hidden cell descriptions, since those descriptions are intentionally matched to the background color so they remain available to screen readers. After making your updates, run the accessibility checker again and repeat the process until all necessary errors are resolved before publishing the workbook. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We would be happy to answer those.
One thing I was wondering is, do we need, I thought it was great and you guys covered everything. But one area that I thought might be missing is like, how does all the text that you put in, all the hidden text, work when you're using formulas and when you're doing different like data analysis with large chunks of data and worksheets and stuff, or pivot tables or any of that, or macros and formulas and, all of that kind of stuff. How, because I know just like in working with like Nick and whatever the assessment stuff, he puts all sorts of things in his stuff, in his the raw data that then turns it and manipulates it and whatever it does to show different types of things that are updated automatically. And I'm just wondering how the accessibility features would work, or what we would need to do to adjust to accommodate that type of use. Somebody that's a real heavy user and doesn't, yeah, that's my question. And maybe it needs to be a part 2, I don't know, or more advanced session or something, because I think you guys covered a lot of stuff in this one, but I don't know. That was my only comment.
I can add my comments here. All these extra informations are out of the data part, before the table, after the table. So when specific, data analysis is needed, like using formula or something, they should be targeting at the data cell, the table part only. So when you are creating the pivot table or something, you have to be careful with the data range. so that all the extra, first, 3 rows, and then at the end of the table, that closing, rows should be excluded from that one. That might be the step we can take extra. But then again, this is really basic kind of accessibility information for every user. So
Right.
if the data set, the worksheet is for specific purpose, not for everybody, like public, dissemination purpose, then you can indicate, in, again, maybe A1 row, you can say that, this is specifically, I don't know, structures for like data analysis, something. So we provide information, that extra information for the screen users as a precaution, warning, heads up, like there. That's another way we can handle. That's my comment about your question. But again, that there might be other areas we can get into more. And like, unlike the Word document or PDF, Excel is slightly different, like thing here. So there's no like absolutely right or wrong kind of recommended way. And the content, the way we present it today is like, again, the one way we can make the Excel accessible for the screen reader users. To get to the same goal, there might be different ways to do it. So if we find, or someone else finds a better way to make this Excel spreadsheet accessible, we can, follow that too. Again, this is just one of the ways we have found based off on the screen reader users, when they are using the Excel spreadsheet. For example, the table caption, they cover the table caption and the alternative text in their presentation, right? And you may notice that we are kind of doing redundant work. We are adding the same information to the alternative text of the item, and then we are also embedding the same information into the Excel spreadsheet one cell. And it is redundant work. But then in reality, we found that some combination of the Excel type of Excel spreadsheet. I mean, I'm talking about Excel, but again, there might be other types of spreadsheet people are using, open Google spreadsheet, or like other, maybe for the Mac users, it's like numbers instead of like Microsoft, Excel spreadsheet, right? So there is like some weird combination between the type of screen reader and then the type of spreadsheet. This alternative text may not work as intended. That's why, we found, it may be better to be redundant. So putting the same information in both of location, so that when the screen reader user will not miss that alternative text or the table description, table caption, necessary information for them to understand the whole, the spreadsheet. That's, again, the way we have found may be optimal for our users. But again, this is one of the possible, the ways to make the table accessible. Okay, I think I talked too much. Any thoughts, Chuck and Cash?
I was going to say that in the description of it, you can get as detailed as you want to be. So I think if you find yourself writing an incredibly long, complicated description, then it might be better to present that information in a different way, or that maybe using a spreadsheet for that isn't the best use of your time or something. If it's going to be that much work to identify each cell and what's going on there. And you could also just say, like, if they're using some kind of a formula or something, that could just be mentioned in that when you're describing the cells and what they are, the columns and what they represent.
Mm-hmm. Another approach we can take at the course level, if, again, if we are making all the spreadsheet in the same way, that accessible, at the course level in the syllabus, or, we can make an announcement, for all the Excel spreadsheet used in my course, this is how, it is structured. Like for the formula, this is the way you can navigate, the spreadsheet. So we can create a separate instructions, file, like in a Word. It doesn't need to be like spreadsheet. So that, in actual spreadsheet, we may not need to explain everything, the same information in A1, A2, A3 row. We can do that, instructions about. It doesn't need to be just a spreadsheet. You can have an instructional kind of document for the Word document in this course. This is how you navigate like things. This the PDF and then Excel. That can be done again at the course level, maybe inside of one course, maybe module level. And if it is a program or Illinois Tech, if we can agree, I think we can provide that instructions as a whole. Then it can reduce the burden of putting the same information in every file we are creating. That's another aspect we may consider later as a team. Okay. Any other comments, questions? No? Then I will add one more kind of like comments. I think, they did a really great job. I really appreciate, you get to the point, and then I think you covered really like all the essential information about the Excel. And one thing, I think it would be helpful for the new people, the faculty or the student or the staff members who may not know about like what is a screen reader, how they are reading the spreadsheet. Any demo of a table reading, a very simple table reading, because screen reader is reading each cell in a table from the top, from left to the right. That demo either created by you, like using VoiceOver, if you're using Mac. If you're using a Windows, maybe you can download the NVIDIA or I don't know, JAWS, freely available, screen reader users, and just have the screen reader to read the table. That, I don't know, 30 seconds, 1 minute video will be very helpful for your audience, maybe understand like why we are doing this, if you can find, and I know in Google, YouTube, you may be able to find some of the screen reader demo of the spreadsheet. So if you find a very good one, you can add that as a resource before or after your presentation. That's my kind of recommendation for you to consider.
The Center for Learning Innovation, CLI, is continuously developing resources and guidance to help you make all of your course materials accessible, including PDFs, Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, Excel files, and even videos. To learn more about digital accessibility and access additional resources, please visit the Digital Accessibility page on the CLI website. Thank you for taking the time to make your course content more accessible and inclusive for all learners.